Baruch Hashem Yahuwah, welcome, welcome, welcome. Nice to have you with us in this daily time in the Word. Today we're going to recap a little bit what we were able to begin on Shabbat, but because I have this in note form now, I'm able to refocus a little bit, maybe hone in on things that I was not able to hone in on Shabbat. So over the next few weeks, of course, we're going to be talking about the necessity and miracles and power and need for deliverance for believers from demonization. And this should concern anybody because we all want to know that we're clean, and we all want to know that we are the cleanest possible temples that we can be, because the cleaner that we are, the more dedicated we will be to Yahusha, and the more effective we will be with Yahusha. Welcome, everybody. Wayne, Messianic Truth, Michael, everybody, Dornans, regular students. Hopefully we'll have some visiting students today as well. So this allows me to focus in a little bit more now. The Ruach told me a while back, a couple of weeks ago, that he wanted us to begin a verse by verse. She wanted me to begin a verse by verse study in the book of Hebrews, but since then she has connecting, so just reboot quickly so you don't miss anything. We know the devil's a liar. So the Ruach did want me to begin a verse by verse study in the book of Hebrews. You can see there's interference constantly since we've been here to take authority and expose the enemy. He has come against us. He tried to kill me last Tuesday, as I already shared with many of you. In addition to that, we've had the main broadcast facility in the sanctuary break down. The computer broke down. So the enemy is doing everything that he can. You need to pray for us. You need to pray for this ministry, that the blood of Mashiach would form a hedge around us for our health, our safety, our freedom, our coming, our going, our health. So make a note before we get into today's teaching. Write it down. Pray for Sholiach, his protection, his health, the ministry, the leading of the Ruach, and the protection, because this message is a life and death issue. And because S period A period Tan knows that it's a life and death issue, he's going to try to come against all of us who are trying to bring life to those demonized and half living and half dead. They're saved, they're alive, they're born again, but all the issues that they had in their life before they got saved, they still have. Matter of fact, some of those issues that they had, or some of you have, are worse now that you're saved than it was before you were saved. So that's not victory. That means you need deliverance. That means there's a foothold or a stronghold in your life. So it's more important right now to obey the latest prodding of the Ruach HaKadosh, where she has asked us to focus in and hone in and take our time. We can dissect some of the things we talked about last Shabbat. I don't want to go into new areas. We can do new areas next Shabbat and in the ensuing weeks. Okay. We can go into new understandings and deeper understandings of how to war spiritual warfare and how to war in the Ruach. But for right now, I want to recap from Shabbat with the benefit of a slower pace and having notes and having things written down. So the true full gospel message and repentance that is required to see restoration in each and every one of your lives. Friends, Adon Yeshua, as you know, has not changed. Neither has his message or his method of operation. Go with me to Luke 10:19, please. Luke 10:19. I'll give you a moment to get there. The good news according to Luke. And again, you can see what's happening. Since we started preaching the necessity of deliverance, yes, even for born-again believers, the enemy, as I said, he tried to kill me in the water, drowned me last Wednesday, July 24th. And now, just this Shabbat, we had some kind of attack on our computer, and all our broadcast facilities in the sanctuary have been knocked out. And just now, some of you got knocked off trying to reconnect. So again, this is good because you see the spiritual warfare and the prince of the power of the air, so we're transmitting through internet and through, so we need to war. And don't forget, please write it down. Don't just shake your head. I hate when believers do that. Oh yeah, man, I'll pray for you. Most of the time we just lie, and most of the time it's like saying, have a nice day. And, you hate somebody and you don't like them and you don't particularly care for them, but when you're leaving their place or you're leaving their store, okay, bye, have a nice day. So if I'm asking you to pray for me, then you need to write it down, and before you eat your lunch or before you have your dinner, if you're listening somewhere else, you need to pray. Luke 10:19, and we need the prayer that he would put a hedge around us and protect us, and that angels would keep all the attacks, because now we have engaged, we've seen the enemy, we understood the enemy better than any time before. We understand how the principalities, powers, thrones, and of darkness works. And now that we are not turning our back and running and farming out this crucial end time ministry, but we are engaging the enemy, so that means that the enemy is engaging us. See, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy. None of them, meaning none of the serpents and scorpions, none of the machim, unclean spirits, will by any means hurt you. So that means we can take authority, we can push back, we can nullify, we can bind the strong man, we can cast the strong man out of Yahuwah's property, of Yahuwah's temple, and none of the shadim, none of the scorpions will by any means hurt you. Okay, so those of you who want to do deliverance ministry, those of you who want to be delivered and be set free, nothing will harm you. Don't think that, oh my gosh, now that I'm doing more intense spiritual warfare, that somehow the enemy is going to hurt me or cripple me or kill me. No. You have nothing to worry about. Yahuwah said, he says that we have all the power of our enemy. None of the shadim will hurt you. None of the shadim will by any means. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. So it says in verse 20 in Luke 10:20, it says, rejoice not. So even though you don't have to worry, you can battle the enemy and not worry about being conquered. You can battle the enemy and not worry about being wounded. You can battle the enemy and not worried about taking out, because greater is he, 1 John 4:4, that he that is in the world. I have given you power not only over the enemy, but I have given you power that none of the shadim that you're going to be dealing with in deliverance ministry can come upon you like they did upon the 7 sons of Sceva, because they did not have the authority. Their vessel was not full of the shemen, the sheminah, the fatness, and the oil of the Ruach HaKadosh. But nevertheless, despite the fact that we have authority to command demons, to command Ruach, to play with them and get rid of them, and they must obey. They can't argue. They can't nullify your command if you really have that true authority. Verse 20 says, but nevertheless, do not rejoice. Don't lose focus. See, Luke 10:20 is a reprimand. Nevertheless, despite this wonderful truth, don't lose focus. Rejoice not that the shadim are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in the Shamayim, in the Lamb's Book of Life, which is in the Shamayim. So we use the authority that he's given us, but our joy and our rejoicing and the joy and rejoicing of our heart should always be in the fact that not that we can boss Ruachim around and cast them out, which is important for freedom and victory in our lives, but our joy should be not, even if we enter into deliverance ministry, and according to Mark 16:17, all believers should be involved in deliverance ministry, because you all know someone, either you know someone or you yourself need deliverance, okay? If you have issues now that are the same that when you got saved, you need deliverance. If you have issues now that have never gone away after you got saved, you need deliverance. Okay, if you're eating more now than you did before, you need deliverance. If you're gorging, if you're a glutton, if you have gluttony more now than before, okay? If you're using more drugs and narcotics to stay medicated with life now than you did before you were saved, then you need deliverance, okay? So these are all telltale signs of why you need deliverance. So I expect, because I know how the enemy works, I expect him to keep attacking us as we delve deeper and expose his nefarious deeds done dirt cheap in darkness. I also expect the broadcast to be attacked, and I also expect few in numbers, because very few people want to be set free. They would prefer their pornography, they would prefer their addiction, they would prefer abusing their wife or their spouse, and verbally abusing their children behind closed doors. So I expect the numbers to be very low. If we usually get 80, 90 listeners to a broadcast, I expect us to have far less. And I don't give a flying, a flying, because I'm on assignment, and when I'm on assignment, I don't really care if y'all tune in or who tunes in. It's not my business. We can go down to 4. But I have to be faithful to what he told me to teach and what we need to do. So if you're having issues and they haven't gone away, you need deliverance. That's a telltale sign that you need deliverance, okay? And if you have something more important to do than you had before, bye-bye. That's right, Wilson. It's never a numbers game. Go do what you got to do. Bye. Have a nice life, okay? And so there are issues in your home, there are issues in your life with your family. We need deliverance. We all need deliverance. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. Thank you for your understanding and your support. I know how the enemy works. He's literally trying to take us out. First, he tried to kill me on the 24th of July in water. I almost drowned. And then that attack hasn't stopped. It's one thing after another. Matter of fact, yesterday when we went out to clean the pool, there was a snake right in the front door, laying right next to the front door of our patio. Okay, so it's just one, and it's okay. I'm ready to be sacrificed on the altar as a sweet savor for his glory and his assignment. And the rest of y'all can tune me out and go back to that little ear-tickling teaching that y'all are so used to. Oh, he loves you, he loves you, he loves you. He's coming again, he's coming again. What good is all that when the next 20 years you're going to live suicidal and you're going to live in depression? Don't you need help? Don't you need deliverance? Rejoice not that the shadim are subject to you, but our focus should not be on Esprit period 10. Our focus, thank you, Yochanan, I do appreciate that, friend. But our focus should be on the fact that the Lamb's Book of Life is in the Shamayim, and that our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Yochanan Moshe 3:13. Yahusha went up to a mountain. A mountain in Scripture is always symbolic of a kingdom or authority. So Yahusha goes up into his mountain, meaning symbolic of his authority, his kingdom, and he calls whoever he wants. You see, Yahusha said what? You have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, and I have ordained you that you should bring forth much fruit. So they came to his kingdom, to his mountain where he was set apart, because he didn't take anybody up there. He just called the 12, right? Verse 14, we're in Mark 3:14. And he ordained 12. And now, whatever applies to these 12 applies to all the 12 tribes of Israel that would come to the Messiah, because those 12 are the figureheads of the 12 tribes and the remnant of the 12 tribes that would come to the Messiah. Okay, so you and I are a remnant of one of these 12 tribes. Some of us have blood from more than one tribe. Some of us have blood from just one tribe, but it doesn't matter. He called them up. He ordained them. Now, what did he ordain them to do? Watch. So under them were the 12 families of Israel. So those 12, dispensationalists lie and they teach that, okay, only the 12 had the authority to cast out demons, to take authority, to call them by name and to tell them to get out, okay, and they have to obey. Some go a little bit more stubborn, but they have to obey. It wasn't just the 12. That's what dispensational wants to do. The Yahweh deals differently in different times and different ages with different people. And that is a lie, because Hebrews 13:8, Malachi 3:6 contradicts that. So when he ordained 12, he's really ordaining 12 tribes to do the same. See? Those 12 represent us. So whatever he's ordaining them to do, he's actually ordaining us, the 12 tribes, to do. Okay? Very important to understand. We see that in Yochanan Moshe 3:14. That they should be with him, that he might send them out to proclaim. So number one, the 12 tribes, the 12 apostles represent the 12 Shiftei Yisrael. Number two, to be with him and to see him and to watch him and to study him and to do what he does, that he might send them out to proclaim. Now I want you to circle that word, that big word with a big fat marker at the end of verse 14. Take a big highlighter. Take one of these suckers and circle that, sent to proclaim. We think of the gospel. That's what we think of: teaching, evangelizing, ministering, proclamation. Right. So here is the proclamation of the Besorah. How the Besorah is to be koheleted or proclaimed. Here, verse 15: to have power to heal the sick in Israel, and to cast out shadim, devils, unclean ruachim. Notice that. See that? That's what proclaiming is. So we in religion have defined proclaiming as you must be saved, repent, the Messiah died for your sins, he bled as an atonement, and after 3 days he rose from the dead, and he's coming back to judge the living and the dead. We limit the proclamation to the spoken word, with the written, and then from the written through the mouthpiece or the spoken word, right? That's what we do when we think of proclaim. But that's not what Yahushua said. He taught the 12, he taught the 12 that the proclamation includes the key elements of healing the sick and casting out unclean ruachim. And we'll see later, out of believers, not just unbelievers, but believers. I don't see any reason why an unbeliever, an obstructing ruach or an interfering ruach cannot be cast out of an unbeliever. But the true cleansing is the children's bread, because healing is the children's bread, right? So if healing is the children's bread, the casting out of shadim and ruachim is the children of Israel, the children of the kingdom, the children who are born again, the children whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life, right? So I don't see why, if we wanted to cast out demons from unbelievers, I don't see why that wouldn't work. It would work, even though they were not willing per se, okay? But the problem with that is they will go and sin some more. Hello? Are you there? See, the problem with casting out demons out of unbelievers is they're going to go back and sin some more, and then the house is going to be clean. And like Yahushua said in Matthew chapter 12, they're going to look for 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 buddies, other familiar spirits who want to mess up the temples of Yahuwah, okay? And they're going to bring them in, and they're going to form a new legion. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering that, and I didn't have the full answer until right now, until you and I got together today on this. What is today? Yom Sheni, right? Yesterday was Yom Echad. Today is Yom Sheni. That is a trap. That is correct. It's a trap. So let's say we went to some, demonized person who was an agnostic or hated Yahusha. Okay, so we cast out the demons, and then what happens? If that person goes and sins some more, which they will, without the restraining ministry of the Ruach HaKadosh, the latter end of that person is going to be worse than the first. So therefore, I've understood that the true deliverance is for the child of Yahuwah. The same way the healing is for the child of Yahuwah, the same way the deliverance is for the child of Yahuwah. You see what I mean? Because if Yahuwah heals the agnostic, they will not be grateful. They'll be like the 9 lepers who will not give Yah the glory. Okay? And then if they cast out the demons, they're going to go look for other demons to fill their temple with, so they can go back to their old way and go back, thank you, Tova, and go back to their old lifestyle. So that is why the scriptures do not emphasize delivering the unsaved. It's not that we're scared that it won't work or that we're worried that somehow it may not be effective. That's not the point, okay? The point is that they will go and sin some more, and the latter end will be worse than the former situation. But our admonition, our mitzvah from Maria is go and sin no more. And hopefully that house will remain clean for the master's use. You see the difference? So it's not that we can't cast devils out of unbelievers, but they don't have any desire to maintain what the master has done. We, on the other hand, the heirs of salvation, do. So here's your gospel proclamation. Speak it, heal it, and deliver it. See? Speak it. Repeat that with me. Speak it, heal it, and deliver it. So according to Mashiach, how do we proclaim the Besorah? Speak it, heal it, and deliver it. I believe that. I've got to believe that. Because it's his word. Whether it works all the time or not, I don't care. That's his job. Whether somebody jumps out of a wheelchair or jumps out of a gurney, I don't know. It's not my job. My job is it says the prayer of Allah will save the sick. So let's do our job and then let him do his job, right? Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. Go with me, please, to Matityahu 10:1, Matthew 10:1. When he had called, Matityahu 10:1, when he had called to him his 12 Talmidim. Again, you notice he keeps emphasizing this. He gave the 12, and then, like I taught you earlier, through the 12 figureheads, the actual 12 tribes. He gave them power against unclean shadim, to cast them out, to heal all kind of sickness and all kind of diseases. So again, we have that confirmation. Those 3 parts to the proclamation. The proclamation is not in word only, right? The proclamation is in the spoken word, in the power to against unclean shadim, to cast them out, and to heal all kind of sickness and all kind of diseases. So again, it's the 3-part proclamation of the Besorah. When we think of healing the sick, and when we think of casting out shadim, we don't think of proclamation and evangelism, but it's just the opposite. We don't think, but Yahuwah does think that way. And Yahuwah has designed the Besorah to work that way. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. But rather, now we're going to go down to verse 6, Matthew Mattiyahu 10:6. He says earlier, go not in the way of the Gentiles. That doesn't mean don't go to the nations, because the gospel is for the nations. And many of you who study the RST&E, you know, it says don't go the way of the nations. That means when you're proclaiming the word, when you're healing the sick, when you're casting out unclean ruachim, don't do it and don't practice it and don't incorporate the ways of the nations into your service to me. Okay, keep yourself clean, keep yourself pure, keep yourself set apart, keep yourself kadosh. It doesn't say, see, because those critics of the two-house truth, they say, oh, well, you guys say that the 10 tribes of the house of Israel is scattered among all nations. and they are the fullness of the nations, or Genesis 48:19, the Melo HaGoyim. Thank you, brother. Correct. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. But he's not saying don't go to the nations, because we all know that Joseph and also Jewish Israel are primarily in the nations. So why would he tell us don't go to the nations? Because in some translations it reads don't go to the Gentiles. But we know he's saying don't go the way of the Gentiles, but rather go the way that the lost sheep of the house of Israel have strayed from and whored. So before they strayed, we're verse 6, when it jumped down to Matthew 10:6, before they strayed and before they whored from Yahuwah, okay, go to the 10 tribes, but do it in a manner where you don't adopt the ways of the 10 tribes who have whored and apostatized, and don't adopt the ways of the nations. You see, it makes sense? That makes sense? Don't adopt the ways of those who have whored away from Yahuwah, neither adopt the ways of the nations, or their methods, or their holidays, or their customs. In order to be a vessel, to be a carrier worthy of the shemen, the oil, and the fatness of his power. Verse 7. And here again, and Yahushua shares it so many times because it's such an important truth that he wants us to understand. So he keeps repeating it and repeating it and repeating it in many places so that we can fully grasp how important a component this is to preaching the full Besorah, to see what an important component, okay? If you're still cussing like a sailor, if you're still coming back from your workout and you're cussing and you're swearing, you need deliverance. And now this ministry is prepared to bring it to you because we know what we're doing and we know our assignment, and he's given us a higher calling. So if your mouth is still the mouth of a drunken sailor, and you still speak and cuss and yell and scream and have manipulative issues and anger issues, like you did before you gave your life to Yahushua, you're not delivered. You can condemn anybody you want. You can make fun of anybody you want. You need deliverance. We all need deliverance in some area, but it takes a humble spirit to admit that we need deliverance. I need deliverance. Matter of fact, I know that I have some daddy issues, and I'm looking forward to go to Atlanta in October and hope and pray that I can go through a deliverance session. Why? Because I want to be more powerful. I want to be more set apart. I want to be more used by the Father in my remaining years under the sun. So going through deliverance is nothing to be ashamed of. Going through deliverance is nothing that makes you weird or a whack job. In other words, the righteous people don't need to go through deliverance, but only the whack jobs. No, stop it. That's stinking thinking. Paul had to go through deliverance. The shlichim had to go through deliverance. So stop that stinking thinking that's holding back victory. Singing about victory is not victory, but experiencing victory for yourself. So why am I going to go through deliverance in October? Because I want to go through some more victories. Isn't that what it means to be Israel? Israel means to go from victory to victory, glory to glory, to be an overcomer. Yes, even more than a conqueror through the Messiah. Not just to overcome, but to be more than a conqueror. So as you go, casting out demons, healing the sick, adding the spoken word. Notice, as you go, we're in Matthew 10:7. As you go, casting out demons, healing the sick, adding that to the spoken word, and proclaim, say the Malchut HaShamayim, heaven is offering you a kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is being offered. Heaven is offering you a kingdom. We learned a long time ago, if you've been studying with me for any length of time, that the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of Yah are not the same thing. The kingdom of heaven is the invitation from heaven. Those who respond to the invitation of heaven and who are willing to lay aside the weight of sin, Romans 12:1-2, that does so easily beset us, we are separated out of the kingdom of heaven because the invitation of heaven goes out to everybody, right, on this earth. Yahweh so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have Chaye Olam. Yochanan 3:16. So he even says it here. He says, when you proclaim, tell them that the invitation or the Malchut HaShamayim is offered. See, notice that terminology that we have in the RSTNE at the end of verse 7. Notice that terminology. The Malchut, heaven gives you an offer, and when you accept it, you are transferred from the kingdom of heaven, which is good and bad, righteous and unrighteous, straight and homosexual, transgender. Everybody gets the invitation. And Yahushua taught that. Okay, he even said, let the tares and the wheat grow together. That shows us that the kingdom of heaven is not the kingdom of Yahweh. You'll have 100 Bible scholars who will tell you it's the same thing. It's not. Yahushua even tells you that over and over again in such places as Matthew chapter 13, Matityahu, where he says, no. In the kingdom of heaven, the wheats and the tares, the good and the bad fruit grow together. And at the end of the age, the Melachim will separate the wheats from the tares. Then the wheats enter the kingdom of Yahuwah. See, and the others who should have accepted the invitation or didn't, or pretended to accept the invitation, but they were never serious about living it, they are the tares. So it's very plain. Scripture is really very plain in that area. But if you ask 100 teachers of the word, they'll tell you that the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of Yahuwah are synonymous. They are not synonymous. So the proclamation is the offer, and we offer the kingdom in a spoken word. We offer the kingdom in demonstrating healing and demonstrating our power to sweep out demons from believers. Can we sweep out demons from unbelievers? We can. But what's the point? Because they'll violate Yahusha's mitzvah, and Yahusha's mitzvah was go and sin no more. So if you cast out shadim from an unbeliever, what do you think is going to happen? They're going to go, and they're automatically going to sin some more, right? Verse 8. And he repeats it again. I mean, how many times over and over? How can it just be for 12 people 2,000 years ago? Nobody else needs healing. Nobody else needs deliverance. In the last 2,000 years, only 12 had the authority to heal and to cast out ruachim. Only 12? So you mean Yahushua didn't leave any power for healing and demon chasing for the next 2,000 years? That makes as much sense, okay, as eating strychnine and expecting to live, okay? Or eating strychnine and going on vacation to the Virgin Islands, thinking that you're actually going to arrive safely. It makes no sense. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He knows that in every generation, as long as he tarries, there's going to be believers who don't have victory and they need victory, or they don't have healing and they need healing. So again, he tells us in verse 8, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers. See, this broadcast is a perfect type of the walk with Yahushua. Let me explain to you what I mean. I'm going to digress here for a second, as the Ruach is telling me to digress. When we started out the daily broadcast, right? When we started out the daily broadcast 2 weeks ago, how many people did you all see online? How many people were watching at the same time? 18, right? 17, 18, 19, right? 20? Now, here we are 2 weeks later, and we have what? 10 listeners? By half, right? And that's the way the life of the believer is. Half the people you see that are on fire for Yahushua today, well, not even going to make it to the finish line. Everybody starts great. Very few people can finish a commitment. Everybody starts great, but very few people can finish a commitment. And those are the ones who die prematurely. Those are the ones who overdose prematurely. Those are the ones who backslide prematurely. And those are the ones who die in their own sin. So I see it in life. I've been in the ministry for over 34 years. And most of the people that started with me, even elders, even worship leaders, they're not walking with Yahushua anymore. They're too busy being bipolar. They're too busy and being comfortable being bipolar. Oh, Shaliach, I can't call you back because my mind is fried, okay? I want to speak to you. I haven't spoken to you in a long time. But I'm bipolar, so I'm going to sit at home being bipolar, and I'm going to be bipolar, and I'm probably going to struggle with this, and then I'll get more meds to be more bipolar. because healing and deliverance was only for 12 boys. It was only for 12 boys. People like that either don't have victory, and even worse, they don't finish the race. So I'm just giving you an example. We started the daily broadcast. Everybody was all excited. Hey, tuning in. I get 18, 19 people. And now we're down to half. All right? This is a perfect lesson. Not to get frustrated. This is a perfect lesson of why you need to finish your race. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers. Verse 8, Matthew 10:8. Raise the spiritually dead. Now people say, oh, so if we're casting out demons and healing the sick, Yahusha also said in Matthew chapter 10, verse 8, that we should raise the dead. No, I'm not raising any dead. I don't want to raise any dead. Why should I raise the dead? I don't know how to raise the dead. You've never seen anybody raise the dead. And don't lie to me and tell me you have. I know that other people say they have. Oral Roberts, Kenneth Copeland. Good for them. So why didn't they raise their friends from the dead? Why didn't they raise their wife from the dead? Why didn't they raise their husband from the dead? They're a widow. Now they have no money coming in. The main provider for the house is gone. Well, why don't they just go raise the dead? So obviously what's being spoken of here is something else. Heal the sick, cleanse the leper. Now demons will go out in real life, okay? Healing will go forth in real life. But I haven't seen anybody raise the dead. So apparently the reference in verse 8 to raising the dead is spiritually. Those who are spiritually dead because of sickness, because of emotions, because of wounds, because of life, because of baggage. Raise those who are spiritually dead. Raise them to newness of life in the Moshiach. That's what that means. That's all part of proclaiming, right? That's all part of preaching, right? Raise those who are dead, Ephesians 2:1. Raise those who are dead in their trespasses and sins, and raise them to newness of life. So here's the proclamation. Raise the dead to newness of life. Heal the sick for newness of life. Cleanse the lepers for newness of life. And cast out Shadim for newness of life. Everything he's telling us is for us to be able to impart life either with our mouth or by demonstrating the Ruach. So when Moshiach says raise the dead, that's what he's talking about. If believers can raise the dead, then we wouldn't have any morgues, would we? There'd be no need for the city morgue, right? You see, friends, for whatever reason, whether fear, timidity, some old movie reruns from Hollywood, bad teaching, a whole bunch of Baptist dispensationalism, whatever the case, or just plain misunderstanding, or just plain lack of faith, fear, lack of faith, unbelief. There are actually three parts to the full gospel message. When any of these three parts are denied or neglected, the true full counsel of Yahweh or the true full counsel of the gospel is not being proclaimed. We just learned that Yahusha's definition of proclamation is different than ours, right? We just learned that, right? It's very important because he's the one who gets to define things in Scripture. He's the one that gets to define things, right? So there are actually three parts of proclamation. The spoken proclamation is required for sure. Romans 10:17. However, only one of the three parts of a full proclamation gospel or a full gospel message or the full counsel of Yahuwah is actually spoken with words. The rest of it, other than the role of the spoken word, which does include teaching and evangelism, is demonstrated in healing and casting out unclean spirits. I'll say that again. The required full gospel message in 1/3 is with words, which can come through teaching, instruction, Torah, and or evangelism. But the rest of the proclamation is visible to the five senses. Yeah, we walk by faith and not by sight. But you do need faith to cast out Shadim, right? And you do need faith to lay hands on, Yah forbid, on the terminally ill, and they shall recover, right? So you might twist the scripture on me and say, well, we walk by faith and not by sight. That's right. But you need faith to proclaim and evangelize. You need faith to heal the sick. and you need faith to cast out unclean spirits. Therefore, all three parts of the full proclamation require emunah. Okay? Just because healings and the casting out of shadim are visible doesn't mean that you're walking by sight. Let me say that again. Just because they're visible does not mean that you are walking by sight. Just the opposite. Because our natural senses tell us not to lay hands on the sick, nobody's going to recover, and no demons are going to listen to us. Who are we, right? We're the ones who suffer from depression, bipolar, obesity, right? High blood pressure, right? So the devil's not going to listen to us. Just see how the enemy lies? But according to the word of Yahuwah, that takes faith. It just manifests in a visible way. It just manifests in a visible way. But it still takes faith. Ecclesiastes 4:12, Kohelet says that a threefold cord is not easily broken. So the way Yahuwah has designed the proclamation of the gospel is to be in a threefold cord. What are the threefold cords? Speaking the word, having the word heal the sick, and having the word cast out demons. I'll say that again. Speaking the word, healing with the word, and casting out demons with the word. That's the Ecclesiastes 4:12 cord. And that's the cord. Listen, let me get a sip. Hold on. That's the cord that we use to bind the strong man, right? Because when we bind the strong man and we bind all the other lesser spirits to his kingdom in a deliverance, we take the threefold cord. Now, you could say that the threefold cord is the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Amen. I agree. But another, or a remez, or the hint of Ecclesiastes 4:12 is the spoken word, the healing word, and the word of cleaning from unclean ruachim. You've got the spoken word, the healing word, and the casting out of unclean ruachim. That also is a threefold cord. So we need that strong, reinforced, powerful threefold cord to bind the shadim together and in one swoop to throw them all out and respond and cleanse the house and the temple of Yah. Before we go further, I want to be clear about something important. The words or the term demon possession is a very misleading term for the concept of demonization of a born-again believer. It's kind of scary. Oh my gosh, you mean believers can be demon-possessed? It's kind of scary, right? But it's not something that we should concern ourselves with, because the term, like many other Christian terms, itself is very misleading. So can a believer be demon-possessed? Yes and no, okay? But the way it's been presented, of course, by tradition and religion, is that believers cannot have demons or cannot be possessed. So demon possession, especially when it comes to the believer, is a bad, misleading term for the biblical concept of demonization or attacks of demons. I'll say that again. In the life of a believer, demon possession, demonic possession, is a very, very incorrect term. The correct concept is the demonization of a born-again believer. Why? Because demonic possession refers to the ownership. Demonic possession refers to the ownership, and Scripture is clear, as we're going to see in a minute in 1 Corinthians 6:19, that the believer, you and I, have been bought with a price. Born-again believers have been bought with a price by the precious blood of the Lamb, the precious blood of the Adon Yahusha. So I'll say that again. If we are purchased, the term possession is a term of ownership, something that belongs to someone else. So the word says in 1 Corinthians 6:19 that we are bought or purchased by someone else, and we belong to someone else. And the price of redemption is the precious blood of the Lamb, the Adon Yahusha. So I want you to rest. I want you to be comforted. I want you to relax. I don't run around teaching, and I haven't done that before, and I'm not going to do that now, that believers can be demon possessed, because who has the authority over you? Who owns you? We're bought with a price. Go to 1 Corinthians 6:19. Don't you know that your body the place where demonization is taking place. What is demonization? Areas where we haven't gotten the victory. It's not Yahusha that has you smoking cigarettes, I can assure you. It's not Yahusha that has you gorging yourself so you weigh 500 pounds, have a stroke from diabetes, I can assure you. So if it's not Yahusha, who do you think it might be, right? Okay. Don't you know that your body is now the Beis HaMikdash, the temple of the set-apart spirit, the Ruach HaKadosh, which is so powerful. It is in you. And you now have the Ruach HaKadosh from Yahuwah. And you are no longer your own, meaning you don't belong to Satan, so you can't be possessed by Satan. You don't belong to yourself, so you can't be possessed by yourself. You have literally been purchased like a house or like a field. So you are not your own. Yahusha has come to purchase you, to begin the cleansing process, to make you his undefiled temple. But that will require your cooperation. If you really want to be set free, Yochanan 8:32, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Yochanan 8:36, therefore if the Son makes you free, you shall be free indeed. If you really want to be set free, you can be. So you are not your own. You don't own yourself. Satan doesn't possess you. You put your name there. You don't possess yourself. Yahusha possesses your temple, and he has plans to build in your temple. He's bought your temple. He's redeemed your temple. And he has plans to build in your temple. That's what it means in Luke 17. The kingdom of Yahuwah is within you. Because the king is moving into his temple. But the cleaner he finds it, the more comfortable he's going to be there. And it's up to you to cooperate to get that thing clean. If you're still struggling with cussing, if you're still struggling with extramarital affairs, if you're still struggling with adultery, if you're still struggling with lack of trust that you had before you were saved, you need deliverance. You got a long way to go, man. You, like me, have been believing the lie that a believer cannot be demonized. You've been believing that lie, and that's exactly the lie Satan wants you to believe, so you don't run for help, you run from help. Because somebody, and sadly I did that for many years, told you don't need help. You are bought with a price. Therefore, bring beauty. The word tiferet, glory, in some translations. I prefer in this case beauty. Let the Ruach beautify your body, which now is his. Let the Ruach beautify your temple, which now is his. Let the Ruach beautify your Ruach, your redeemed spirit, which is now his, because they are from him and they now belong to him. Was Shaul, we have a question? Was Shaul an example of the believer being demonized? That's tricky because, you mean King? You're talking about King Saul, right? We're not talking about Sholiach Shaul, correct, Yochanan? I believe you're referring to King Saul. Yes, that's a perfect example. Even though he was a king, that's right. Absolutely, King Saul is a perfect example of someone who was in and out of the Ruach and occasionally listened and occasionally didn't. It's kind of like most of you or us. We're in and out. Finding pasture, John 10. We're in and out. He's the shepherd, and the body of it is the sheepfold. But we don't stay in the sheepfold. We're in and out. And that's a perfect example. Perfect. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. He knew Yahuwah at one time, but he allowed demonization to take place. A perfect example of a believer. A believer, right? He knew the Ruach, and he knew the Elohim of Israel had anointed him and chosen him to be king, right? And was with him in his many battles until he refused to stay clean and to be committed. So when we don't stay committed and we don't stay faithful and we don't stay planted, we're immediately in danger of forgetting what we knew, denying what we knew, turning our back on what we knew. Think about that. I want you to pause, really think about that. When we forget who he is and what he did in our lives, That's an open door, and we don't remain faithful, we don't remain steadfast. And pretty soon we deny what he did. We deny everything he showed us. We deny the areas in our life that he revealed to us. And the end of the matter is like it was in the book of Acts, like the Ephesians. There were wolves in Ephesus who went around and they had backslidden so far that they even denied the master that bought them, right? Because Sholiach Shaul said, I know that after my departure, men will come in like wolves, not sparing the flock of which the master purchased, he bought with his own blood, even denying the master who purchased them with his own blood. So we see that purchase. Shalom Shaliach Moshe, I will replay. Tov. So you see, that goes back to possession. In other words, the wolves come in because they forgot who purchased them, and then they go around teaching others because that's why it's so important to remember, okay? Even the Shabbat and the fourth commandment, even the Shabbat, Zechor et Yom HaShabbat, lekodsho, remember the Sabbath day, remember. So I don't believe that the believer can be possessed. But that doesn't mean he cannot be demonized. So the believer, he and he alone, Adon Yahusha, owns us and possesses us. Yet we are to bring the temple beauty. See, we're to allow the Ruach to beautify our temple by expelling all the unclean Ruachim. See? When we're left only with the set-apart spirit in our temple, that's when it reaches a stage of beauty. Not nirvana, yeah, forbid, right? Beauty, okay? So when the only Ruach left standing in our temple is the set-apart Ruach, that brings him glory, that brings him beauty. It's a beautiful translation we have here in 1 Corinthians 6:20. Therefore, bring beauty to Yahuwah in your body and in your Ruach, which come from him. So we are to allow the temple to be beautified through cleansing, also known as deliverance, and where Yahuwah is esteemed, glorified, and beautified. However, even though we are Yahuwah's possession, in Yochanan 10:10, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you may have life, and that more abundantly. The thief hates the Messiah, and the thief hates you, his pearl of great price. So his job is to dirty up the temple or allow the temple to remain unclean. See? We're bought with a price. Yahweh has great plans for our temple to make it immortal, to cover its corruption with incorruption, to cover its mortality with immortality. He has great plans to beautify our temple. But we have to be willing. We have to be willing to allow him to beautify our temple. But the enemy who comes to steal, kill, and destroy hates Mashiach, and he hates us, that pearl of great price. As such, S.A.Tan and his lessers, okay? I called them children. Somebody corrected me, said, no, they're not children, they're lessers, because children could be the multiple personalities. Okay. I understand. But Satan and his lessers, so what would that be? A lesser would be anger, jealousy. These would be ruachim that attack the believer. They may not even have a legal right. Or they're not strong men. They're just sent to torment. They're tormenting spirits, but they're under the authority of the strong man. Okay? So we call those lessers. The lessers, like hate, bitterness, anger, jealousy, refuse to leave and give back the legal ground. Now that you belong to Yahusha, just because you invited Messiah into your life does not mean that they automatically want to exit their house, their old house. So that's the problem. You're bought with a price. Yahusha has great plans to live inside of you and to be your Elohim and you to be his people. The problem is the tenants that are there now are so comfortable. You've made them so comfortable that you haven't been proactive to get rid of them or to expel them, that they don't want to leave. Would you want to leave your house? If you had a mortgage and you bought a house and you were making payments, Would you want to leave your house? Somebody else comes there and was going to clean it up, fix it up, carpet it, fix the floor, fix the air conditioning. Would you just be happy to leave, even though the house has issues? No. So the demons don't want to go. You have to command them to go. Okay? They're not going to automatically exit when you pray the sinner's prayer of Romans 10:9 and 10. If you just pray the sinner's prayer, Romans 10:9 and 10, and you expect them to automatically leave, they're not scared of the sinner's prayer. They are scared of a man or a woman who's faithful and has the authority to kick them out. Okay? So they're like the cops that are coming to arrest a tenant who doesn't want to leave their property. So when someone tells the tenant, get out of the house, who hasn't paid their rent, they're not going anywhere. You haven't paid your rent, you owe 4 months rent, you haven't paid your bills, get out of the house. They're not going anywhere. So what do you do to get rid of the tenant who is messing up the house and not paying the house and defaulting on their payments? You call the police, right? What do the police do? They come and they arrest the man and expel him. That's what deliverance is. You call the police, they arrest the Ruachim, and they kick him out. It's not hard to understand. Yehoshua made it very easy. It's so simple that it's kindergarten. But to us, it's like, ooh, spooky, scary, mystical, esoteric. Spooky, scary, mystical, esoteric. Because religion has divorced the casting out of Ruachim from Torah compliance. This is something that all Torah keepers should be doing in the name of the Maria. And instead, the church has divorced it from the rest of our calling and made it into some, oh my gosh, it's scary. It's scary. The devil can kiss my tuchus where it don't shine. That's what the devil can do. Just people say over the years, oh, you're teaching that Islam is the end time beast. Aren't you scared? Do I look scared? I'm not scared of Islam, and I'm not scared of demons, and neither should you be, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. And there are more for you than are against you. 1,000 shall fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand. It shall not come nigh unto you. They will come in one way, and they will flee 7 ways. They will come in one way and flee 7 ways. That Yahweh will punish them and execute 7-fold vengeance upon them for messing with you, who are a trophy piece, a masterpiece, a pearl of great price. For messing with you, they will be tormented. But they're not going to leave so easily. They're not going to run out so quick. It may take a while. It may take a few sessions. So just because Mashiach has come, according to Romans 10:9 and 10, where you confess him with your mouth and believe in your heart, that's how you get saved. But that doesn't mean the tenant wants to leave, because you just served them notice. A lot of times the tenant doesn't want to leave on the first or second notice. They plan on staying around, not paying their rent, and using the property 10 years without paying their mortgage and without paying their rent. So what happens? You have to make an arrest. Who are the policemen? We are. When the police show up, they will leave the house. Guaranteed they're going to leave the house, because they don't want to go to the pit. They don't want to go to prison. But you're there to make an arrest and put them in prison so they can't harm anybody else. You're there to make the arrest, extract the Ruachim, and put them in prison. You got that authority. You don't have it in the natural, because you're not a warden, you don't run the jail, but you do run it in the Ruach. In the Ruach, you are the warden, you are one of the wardens, and you do have authority to lock people up. That's what deliverance is in the very essence. Satan must first be bound. Satan must be exposed. Satan must be extracted. Why would you leave him there? I wouldn't want any Ruachim that came in through my father's abuse, through generational curses. Okay, maybe the Jews 5 generations ago in Eastern Europe were studying Kabbalah in the dark and doing weird incantations and pronouncing curses on other rabbis that they didn't like. And here I am 5 generations later. I don't know diddly squat about Kabbalah. I didn't know what they were doing in the dark. I don't have no idea what they were doing. But Satan knows, because that's when he came in and he entered the bloodlines. And now's the time to get rid of him. So I don't know. Why wouldn't I not want to go through deliverance? Because more than likely, the bloodlines are so polluted and there's so many curses that have been spoken and done that all of us have some issues. And one clear hint of demonization is if everybody in your family has depression, if everybody in your family is broke, if everybody in your family has lupus, there's a curse. All right, that's not just a coincidence. That's not just happenstance. Okay. So he's bound, exposed, extracted, sent packing to the pit, where S period A period tans ruachim, not Satan, but the lessers, the lessers of the strong man, and sometimes the strong man themselves must go to the pit to join the pre-flood spirits already under Yah's judgment. That's what deliverance is. You put them under Yah's judgment and you expel them to the pit. And you chain them, you arrest them, and put them in the pit along with all the ruachim from before the flood. That's the kind of power he's given you. And that's why Yahushua said so many times over and over again, the kind of authority in usosia in Greek, ususia, and in Hebrew, the koach, that he has given you, okay? To send strong men and unclean ruachim to the same pit, to the same place, where the ruachim from before the flood are being kept under the judgment before they're sent collectively into the lake of fire. So that's where Yahuwah collects the demons. Where's the collection agency? The place where Yahuwah collects the demons is in the pit. And when you help your friend and you help your brother and they're cooperating, okay, you take those ruachim, you send them to the pit, and they are under the judgment of Yahuwah because you have the authority to make a citizen's arrest. We see that even in the natural, right? Don't we see that in the natural? There's such a thing that's called the citizen's arrest, right? So you don't call the police or the FBI or whatever. You yourself make a citizen's arrest. And you can do that as a citizen of the Commonwealth of Israel. So you put them under Yah's judgment. That's all part of the extraction. I don't like to use the word exorcism, but the extraction. Why else would these spirits leave your house unless they are commanded and forced to do so? If you were a spirit and you were living in a temple and in a family for 5, 6, 7, why would you want to leave? Why would you want to be homeless? Because Yahushua said when a ruach has nowhere to land, they go through dry places, they choke. If they don't find a place to land, their watering hole is your body. They're weak and beggarly and homeless. They're weak and beggarly and homeless. So they have no place to land. And Yahushua said they go through dry places. So our job is to extract these shadim, command them to leave, force them to leave by the authority. Matthew 28:18 through 20. All authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. Go ye therefore and proclaim the gospel. We just learned that the proclamation included those three parts: the spoken, the healing word, and the deliverance word. So true, but they are coming out soon. Amen. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. All right, sister. Don't scare me now. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah. In Yahushua's name, they'll come out. And just so you'll know, our sister has scheduled her deliverance. And I've very rarely seen someone who's as hungry to serve Yahuwah, at least at this stage. Now, we don't know where you're going to be in 9 months or 8 months, because he that endures to the end shall be delivered. But we're very, very thankful and impressed that our sister is looking forward. She's not running, but she's looking forward to her deliverance. And so, Baruch Hashem, nothing to be scared of. It's going to be a cleansing. It's a beautifying of the temple to be even more set apart. And like I was saying on Shabbat, there's no shame. When people think, oh my God, if they find out I have demons, and they find out I have, oh my gosh, I don't want to come anymore, and I don't want people to know. Well, here's the problem with that. Here's the problem with that kind of stinking thinking, okay? Yahushua extracted 7 ruachim from Miriam of Magdala, right? And then what did he do? He wound up marrying her. He betrothed her. He didn't intercourse her, because we know that Yahushua did not do intercourse or have children, but he betrothed himself to Miriam of Magdala. And it is written in the Apocryphal or the Gnostic Gospels, such as Philip and Thomas, that all the shlichim, all the emissaries, were jealous of Miriam of Magdala because she was the main teacher, she was the main right-hand lady of the master, and that they would often find, it says, they would often find the master kissing her on the lips. Well, think about that. If you're a righteous rabbi, you're not going to run around kissing women in your congregation on the lips for no reason, right? Okay. So the fact that the Talmidim were upset, that number one, he allowed a woman to be an apostle, not just a student, an apostle, okay? Provided she go through deliverance. And provided she went through deliverance, he married her. So I don't see any shame. She didn't run. And Yosha didn't say, oh, well, you're one of those weird believers. You're one of those weird believers who follow me and have demons. Therefore, once your secret is out, nobody's going to accept you and you have to run for the hills. That's stinking thinking. Because Yahusha married her and she stayed with him and had no shame. We all have to want to do for Yahusha. We want to get cleansed for the ministry. That's right. Amen. We all have work to do for Yahusha. We must get clean for his service, and we must get clean for his ministry. That is a beautiful, beautiful confession there. A beautiful, beautiful confession. After all, your ancestors, through their evil deeds, invited devils into your bloodlines. You're the victim. Deliverance is the means by which we, actually Mashiach, cleanses our temples, as she said, for service to him, for glory, Philippians 1:6. The one Yah, the Master Yah, who began a good work in you, will perform it until the day of the Messiah, by and through the Besorah, the good news, the meat of the good news. And the true gospel is real. It is demonstrated, and I changed the spelling, I think, for emphasis, DEMON hyphen-strated. Demonstrated, or demonstrating the expulsion and the arrest, citizens' arrest of Ruachim that are tormenting our brothers and sisters. If we see Ruachim that are tormenting our brothers and sisters and they're willing participants, and we don't do what the Master said, get rid of them, cast them out, so that your brother and sister in Messiah can have a better quality of life, what kind of love? What kind of love is that? So what motivates us is love. In other words, if we're supposed to cast out Ruachim, and there are brothers and sisters who have Ruachim that need to go that are hindering, okay? How are we walking in love if we don't do something about it? It's like somebody needs a doctor, they can't afford a doctor, so we pay their doctor visit $60 or whatever so they can afford to go see the doctor. That's love, right? It's the same in the Ruach. If we have the ability, the empowerment to do a citizen's arrest and extract them, command them to go so that they're not given a choice to stay, we are walking in love. And First John says, how do we walk in love? We lay down our lives for others. We give up Sunday. We give up a football game. We give up comfort food. We give up a comfort zone. And get off that stinking couch and stop making excuses for your life. And help your brother and sister. Do something for your brother and sister. Do something for someone that is not yourself. And so at the core, the extraction of Ruachim in order that the temples may be beautified, since they are his possession. Remember, I don't believe possessed means he owns us. We don't own ourselves as a demon. So technically a believer cannot be demon possessed because the possession belongs to the Messiah. But they can be simonized and mushmanized and demonized, okay? They could be smeared with all kinds of schmutz from within. So the true gospel, at least 2/3 of it, is really visibly, visually demonstrated for all to see so that no one can deny the true reality that Yahusha Chai, that Yahusha lives. We'll continue this tomorrow. I would encourage you to share this, right after we're off the air, press the share button, share it on Facebook, share it elsewhere. I love live. I love the live interaction that you don't get on the replays, but please share the word of Yahweh. The hour is important. The time is important. This is being restored to the people of Torah. Now, we know that some people have been practicing it the right way or the wrong way in the church system, but now it's being restored to the people who love the Torah and follow the Torah. So this is a very exciting time to be alive. We love you. Shalom, shalom. Have a good one. Have a Yom Sheni Sameach, a Tov Shavua. Thank you, Allison, for sharing. Thank you for your comments, everybody. Thank you, Yochanan. Thank you, everybody who's faithful to the daily teaching. Shalom, shalom from Goshen B'Tzachon.